Hey guys, it's Darwin here with my weekly Q&A to answer more of your questions. If you want to ask a question for next week's Q&A, you can either leave it in the comment box below or send me a video question over to darwinonthetrail@yahoo.com, and then next week I'll answer as many as I possibly can. I hope everyone is having a really awesome holiday season. Let's go ahead and get into this week's first question. I'd like to see some videos about backpacking in winter, i.e. with snow. Or is that not your thing? In particular, how does your gear setup change and how do you deal with shorter days and the cold? So I've actually done some past videos of backpacking in the winter. Just last year, a friend and I actually tried to climb Mount Wheeler, which is the highest peak in New Mexico. There was like 6 foot of snow. We had to do a lot of snowshoeing. If you want to check that video out, I'll leave a link in the description box below. Plus, I'll put a link up here. 2 years ago, Snuggles and I did a snowshoeing trip at Cumbres Pass in Colorado. Again, like 6 foot of snow. We stayed in a yurt overnight. I'll put that video down here as well. And then technically, just like 3 weeks ago, that trip that Nemor and I did in the Grand Canyon, which was a rim to rim to rim, was a winter trip. That was in December, and it got down to like 9 degrees on the North Rim. So I did carry some winter gear on that hike as well. I'll also put a gear list in the description box so you can see all of the gear that I carried for that trip and see how it differs from my other types of gear setups. Now, as far as doing some sort of a winter trip on like the AT or the PCT or something like that, no, I've never done that yet. But who knows, maybe I will do a trip like that sometime soon. I really do like backpacking in the winter, even though I'm not a giant fan of the snow. I'd rather, be out in the desert. I'm not a big fan of being super cold, but it is on my list to do some more winter backpacking. And until then, check those videos out. What is your reasoning for not using hiking boots? Do you not like hiking boots? Any specific reason you would recommend them, or is it something you've never seen a need for? So the reason that I personally don't wear hiking boots is because I don't really need hiking boots. I typically carry a pretty light pack, so I don't need that extra support around my ankle and stuff to carry that extra weight on my back. Hiking boots are really good if you're carrying a really heavy pack. So if you have like a full pack loaded down and you're carrying like 40 or 50 pounds, that's really where hiking boots give you a lot of help. And would I recommend hiking boots to people? Yeah, absolutely. If you're doing a trip where you're carrying extra gear, like maybe you're doing a mountaineering trip or a snowshoeing trip in the winter or something like that, yeah, there's a lot of advantages of having a hiking boot just because it gives you more support when you have more weight on your back. But typically, I don't wear a hiking boot, I just wear a trail runner. Now that I have a lighter pack, there's no need for them. I'm working on a healthier lifestyle so I can start tackling long distance through hikes. What did you do to get in shape for your triathlon days? Can you make any recommendations for heavy, out of shape couch potatoes starting their fitness journey? So, good question, Lieutenant Dan. And how I got in shape and how I lost all the weight that I lost was I started riding a bike. And I started riding a bike everywhere. At my biggest, I weighed 275 pounds. I was super unhappy, and I bought a bike. At first, I just kind of rode my bike every morning. Then I started riding it every morning and every night. And then it got to the point to where if I just wanted to go down the street to the store to like get a snack or get a Coke or something that was really unhealthy for me, I would just ride my bike there instead of driving. Eventually, I started commuting every day back and forth on my bike, and I hardcore started losing weight and feeling better. So a bike is really how my fitness journey started. Now, as far as training for a long distance trail in specific, like I've said a million times, the best way to train is just get out on the trail and hike. I know a lot of hikers that will take a pack and they'll put a full load in it, food, water, and everything, and they'll just go hike up and down mountains, and that is a great way to lose weight and get in shape as well. So my recommendations would be getting a bike, riding it everywhere, and doing a bunch of hiking, and that should get you in pretty good shape and get you ready to start hiking some long distance trails.
Hi Darwin, this is Gosia. I'm originally from Poland, currently in Northern Ireland, and you can do tons of hiking here. I'm just wondering, what do you think about getting the duplex tent for British conditions? So obviously lots of strong winds, snow in winter, and lots of rain. I'm just not sure if I want to spend so much money for something that will not hold up.
So I have owned the duplex now for about a year, and I haven't really had it in any hardcore weather. No hard rainstorms or snowstorms or anything. I have had it in some pretty crazy wind, up to 35 to 40 miles an hour, and my duplex held up great. Now, even though I love my duplex a lot, it is definitely a tent that is based on tension, and because it does set up with trekking poles, you know, it's not gonna be as sturdy as something like a freestanding tent. However, I do know a lot of hikers that have put the duplex through some hardcore weather, and if you're familiar with another YouTube hiker named Redbeard, he put out a video like 3 years ago. He was out on the AT and he got caught in a really hardcore thunderstorm where it rained and rained and rained for hours, and his duplex held up great. So I think it all depends on how good you pitch your duplex and what type of conditions that you're in. I would have no reservation about taking my duplex out in any type of weather because I think that it can take it, and I would definitely recommend that tent to you. As long as you're not like going out in hurricane weather, I think you should be fine. On a through hike, how much time do you actually spend hiking each day on average? So it all depends on the trail. It all depends if I'm doing just a section, if I'm doing a full-on through hike, if I'm doing a weekend trip. Now I know you did ask about a through hike, and in 2015 and 2016, Snuggles and I were averaging about 15 to 20 miles a day. And my rule of thumb has always been I hike until 5 p.m. Now, if it's a day where I know that, you know, I don't really have to hardcore make some miles and I'm kind of close to a town, I might take some extra time in the morning. I might sleep in a little bit, but I always try to hike till 5 p.m. I cannot stand getting to camp really early just because typically when I get to camp after a day of hiking, I'm tired. So I eat and I go to bed. So if I get to camp and it's like 3 o'clock, I'll pass out by like 5 o'clock, which means I'll wake up sometime in the middle of the night and not be able to go back to sleep. So I typically like to hike till 5 so I can get to camp, I can eat, I can relax, go to bed at about 8 or 9 o'clock, get a really solid night of sleep, get up right as the sun's coming up and hit the trail again. If I wanted to vlog my through hike, what basic gear list would I need for that? Any tips or advice, things you would do differently? I mean, everybody's gear is gonna differ and it all depends on what type of camera that you wanna carry. I know some hikers that carry some big DSLR cameras. A lot of hikers carry a mirrorless camera. Some people carry a GoPro. Some people vlog on their phone. And I don't think there's any right way or wrong way to do it. It all really depends on what you plan on doing with the footage. So if you plan on making some basic YouTube videos, maybe just a phone or a GoPro will work. If you plan on really doing some cinematography, some really nice, beautiful shots, and really capturing your hike, I would suggest going with like a mirrorless DSLR or a point and shoot camera. The camera that I use is the Canon G7X Mark II, and I love that thing. And I'm willing to take that weight penalty of having a heavier, bigger, bulkier camera because I really like to put together cinematic looking hiking videos. Now, as far as doing something different, out on the AT and the section hike that I did on the CDT, I carried a GoPro, and I regret carrying a GoPro. I wish that I would have had my nicer camera on those hikes just because I know that the payoff in the end product when I'm editing and I get some really nice footage from that other camera is totally worth the wait. And then another tip that I would definitely suggest is get a good tripod. Now, you don't have to get some really big, crazy tripod, but even the little bendy Joby Gorilla Pods are great, and they're perfect for setting up a shot. So if you're willing to carry the extra weight, I definitely think it's worth it to get a good camera, get a good tripod, and get as many good shots as you possibly can, because in the end, it's totally worth it when you go to edit it together. Have you ever thought about eating Soylent powder on your hikes? So if some of you don't know what Soylent is like a meal replacement that was created for a bunch of people in Silicon Valley, a bunch of tech geeks that pretty much needed food to replace regular food while they were typing away on their computers. I have tried it in the past and I'm not a fan. I personally think it tastes like pancake batter, which is kind of gross, and I had a really hard time stomaching it. I personally know a hiker named Geared Up that pretty much lives off that stuff when he's on the trail, and he swears by it. I personally haven't been able to deal with it. I have started using a new product though called Ambronite. which is a little more of a plant-based Soylent type powder. And I'm thinking about carrying some of that on my through hike of the PCT next year. Now, eventually I'll do some sort of a review talking about it, but so far I like it on doing smaller trips. I'll just have to see if I can use it like every single day and pretty much have it as my main food source. I don't know yet. For that, I kind of like cold soaking or sometimes using a stove and eating nor rice sides. But using just a powder-based food on a hike, I just can't do it yet. All right, guys, last question of the week. If I have to resupply that day or I won't have any more food and the weather is so bad that I can't hike, what do I do? Hike. If you're out on a trail, like a through hike or a section hike, you just hike. You embrace the suck and you deal with it. There's days where it's going to be raining, it's going to be hot, it could be a snowstorm. There's never a day that I'd rather stay in my tent or stay in a shelter and ride out like rain versus just hiking in it, dealing with it, and then getting into a town where I can dry out, I can get something hot to eat, and I can resupply. So my suggestion is if you're in some really bad weather, just hike. Just deal with it. It's going to make you a stronger hiker. And whenever you get to town and get hot food and get all those things that you need, it's going to be a really good morale booster and get you out of that weather. Embrace the suck and just hike. All right, guys, so if you want to leave a question for next week's Q&A, you can either leave it in the comment box below or send me a video question over to darwinonthetrail@yahoo.com, and then next week I'll answer as many as I possibly can. If you haven't had a chance yet, go over and check me out on Instagram. I've been posting a lot of new photos of some of the things that Snuggles and I have going on throughout the week, plus some pictures from some past hikes. If you found any value in this video, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And as always, guys, thanks for watching.